Hi class, I wanted to take a quick minute to help you work through a concern that I've seen a lot of students have throughout all of the English and literature courses that I've taught. It primarily relates to research topics, but it can apply to just about most writing. And that's how to take an outline or an idea that you have, maybe a thesis statement, an outline of a topic, and to actually turn that into writing. Because a lot of times when you're making notes, when you're outlining, when you're doing the prep work, you might be scribbling notes, annotations in the margins, you might be copying and pasting things. You're just basically assembling the pieces of your Legos or your puzzles so that you can then work with them. But how do you actually turn that into what you would consider writing as opposed to just blocks of copy and pasted text? Now, there are two approaches that you can take with this, and I like to either call it the writing first approach or the research first approach. What I found is that most students tend to have difficulty taking research and turning it into something that actually sounds coherent. So I would advise you to try the option maybe that you're least familiar with, or if you have trouble either finding the research or turning the research into writing, pick the option that you're not used to that might work because it's a new perspective. So let me give you a quick idea of what I mean by writing first or research first. Now, I am using non-library, non-official research information here. I just have some websites listed. Don't take this as, oh, I don't need to do official sources or anything. I'm just doing this for the ease of understanding and just simplicity of finding this. But let's say you want to write about dogs are the best pets. Again, not medical related. I know I'm oversimplifying it just for an illustration, but apply this basically to your medical or literary topic and go from there. But let's say you want to write a paper about why dogs are the best pets. Now, where a lot of students start is they will look at research and then they will find bits and pieces of research. So for example, you have 11 reasons dogs are simply the best. So they'll look at something like this and they'll see the list of why dogs are the best. And then they might copy and paste. So, they might come over here, and so I'm using our APA sample, the template that is available in all classes. So this is just a little plug to use that because it makes things a lot easier. So maybe what you might do is come over and you'll paste this, and then, oh, I like this number 2. Assume that I'm actually doing some quality research here and not just speed running this for the sake of a video. But yeah, so, okay, that's what I do. So now how do I take this information and turn it into something that sounds normal? Because you've got completely different sources. You've got copy and paste information that you need to then turn into a paper. Well, here's a way of thinking of things that you should try at the early stages of writing that might make this easier. Instead of coming out with the research first, so that would be finding the research and then trying to make it work, is start by picking a topic you care about or want to write about. And before you do any research, start writing. And this can be part of the brainstorming, part of the outline, and part of the pre-writing stages is just start writing what you care about and what your thoughts are. So you could maybe say something like, I think dogs are the best pets because they are friendly and eat your leftovers and crumbs, so you don't need to vacuum as often. Okay, and then you would go on to continue and write. So what you would do is, instead of starting with the research, if you're having trouble, is start by just writing what you think, what you feel, and what you want to explore. Then what you're going to do is, now that you have the ideas and information that already sounds like writing, and again, assume that I'm writing more than just a sentence here. Maybe you have 1 or 2 pages that you've just started writing. So assume that there's more here. But, you have 1 or 2 good pages about why dogs are good boys and good girls, and you like them the best, and they're much better than cats. Well, then what you do, now that you have something that sounds like writing, is you will then search for the research that backs up what you've already said. So maybe you say, okay, they eat crumbs and you don't need a vacuum as often. Then then maybe this one backs it up. They lower our stress levels because you're less stressed if you don't have to vacuum, and they make you feel good. So then you would say, according to source, and then you would type in your source and cite it. So then you would go through, and for your counter argument or antithesis, or just basically to bring up any counter arguments, you would also have thought of this during the pre-writing stage, is you would come over here and say, okay, well, I talked about how dogs are dirty, and according to this source, they can carry diseases and bacteria and whatever else. So you would say, doggos are bad because they are dirty, according to research, and then you would go on and cite your research. So this is the writing first approach. If you have trouble taking research and turning it into something that sounds like writing, this is a really good way of going about it, because you don't have to conform research in other people's voices into something that sounds like you. Instead, what you're doing is creating basically an emotional and personal piece, and then finding the research that goes along with your topic. Now, you can completely reverse this, as I said. If you have trouble working with research and you like to just start writing, try doing it the other way around. And instead of just starting writing, look for research on things that you want to write about. So this helps for people who maybe have a hard time finding research because they're so opinionated or they write something so specific. So maybe you start your paper by saying dogs are the best because there are so many species, you can find one for any personality and any need, whether you live on a farm or in an apartment. Then you might have trouble saying, okay, well, how am I going to find any research that covers that? Well, dogs bring your friends. Okay, that's not quite about, that doesn't quite make sense with what I said about they can live in an environment. So how do I find that? So if you have trouble finding research for something you've already written, do the research first approach, where you look for the research on topics that you're interested in about dogs, and then write about that research. That will make it easier to avoid just writing nothing but your own voice and not being able to find research for it. That will help you start thinking about the research, and then you can adapt your own writing to that research. So that way, whichever side of things you struggle with, whether you have a hard time making the information you have researched sound like you, or whether you have a hard time actually finding research to go along with what you've written, pick one of the other approaches and try that. So again, the writing first approach is to just start writing your stream of consciousness and then find research that will back up what you said. The other way of doing that is saying, okay, I'm going to start with the research because I tend to be too opinionated, so I'm going to look for research first and base what I write on that. So in this case, you would say, dogs bring you friends. So, okay, I'm going to write about dogs bringing friends. I've found that I have more friends because my dog looks like a superhero. And then you would go in and use your source that way. So there's no right or wrong way here. The purpose of this video is just to help you understand that there's more than one way that you can approach writing with research. And if you're having trouble doing one of those two things, start with the opposite and see if that doesn't help, because you might just find that it helps you ease into the writing process and the research process in general, without sort of getting caught up on the things that you found have made it difficult in the past. So I hope that helps, and if you have any questions, just be sure to let me know. But I encourage you to try something different for the next writing assignment and the next thing you write, to see if maybe a writing first or a research first approach might not make it easier to sort of achieve your goals and work through the process a little bit more easily than you might have in the past. So I hope that helps, and as usual, I'm here if you have any questions, but I will see you in the next video.